Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 1st of May 2017. I'm Joe, and with me are Jesse.
Hello all.
Phelim.
Hey, how's it going?
And Ike.
How are you?
Good. So, you're back, Phelim, finally.
I am. I'm alive.
Good to have you back. You've missed all of this Ubuntu stuff, but thankfully it's still in the news, a few episodes on. So let's start with that then, I suppose. It turns out that Wayland and GNOME are going to be default in the next version of Ubuntu, 17.10. We knew it was going to be in 18.04, the LTS, but it looks like they're fast-tracking this.
That's a sort of standard move pre-LTS, isn't it? You don't want to drop something as big as a display server into your LTS in case there's any kind of hiccups or nasties you hadn't predicted. So get it in one before and try and iron out those bugs.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I know we've talked about this a lot. What is your take on it all, Phelim? I know you are a KDE Neon user, so presumably you don't give a shit about any of it.
Well, obviously, I'd like to add that I feel sorry for people who lost their jobs. So, I mean, get that out the way. But otherwise, yeah, okay. Maybe I don't care too much. I mean, I've seen a lot of people in KDE community going, oh, you should use KDE. You can turn that into Unity and it will all be brilliant. To be honest, don't think we should get on that one at all. I think you should just, let Shuttleworth and those guys do what they want and we do our own thing. I don't think we need that type of thing. It would have been obviously good to have maybe more Qt developers about the place. They might come to their senses and realize that they could just have the best thing ever and use KDE. But yeah, not really a big deal. What'll be great though is the fact that they'll be using Wayland. That's good for drivers. It's good for more testing, and I think that's one thing that Ubuntu have done really, really good has been the fact that they got right stuck in with QA, and they sort of made it to the point where you could upgrade a release and just go, of course it's going to work. So if they can bring that along to Wayland, that'd be brilliant. And
who else is shipping Wayland as default? Is it Fedora? Are there anyone else that's doing it at the moment?
Arch.
It just seems that Wayland is the one that, everyone keeps on saying, oh, it's good that Ubuntu is moving over to Wayland, then you don't get this disparate use of Mir and Wayland and the sort of competition that's unnecessary. Might as well back one display server and like you said, Phelim, get all the benefits of that. And I'm just sort of surprised that there's not, I'm not thinking of SUSE on it. I'm not thinking of any of the other sort of big names that are on it. And it seems strange that there's no one using it or as the default at the moment.
I'm waiting for Ike to chime in here and tell us all why.
No, I wasn't really going to say why. I'm just thinking back to recently when I had to disable Wayland in Solus. There are problems, and there are going to continue to be problems. It's not mature enough yet. But I'm sure, with Ubuntu defaulting to it, some of those issues will start to evaporate, even though a lot of it's happened over on the Fedora side for the bugs. But, when people keep going on for Wayland now, they're not really talking about the technological superiority or anything like that, because most of the statements that are made about it, it's like, it solves all screen tearing. If the drivers are done right, sure. If the compositor is done right, because people are forgetting Wayland is a protocol. It's not a server. Like with Mir, that was a server. Xorg is a server. In the Wayland model, your compositor is effectively the server, i.e. Mother, Compiz, or anything like that would be what would take that place. And, people talking about it nowadays, it's like, we must have Wayland everywhere. It's like, why? Because it's the next cool thing. Oh, okay. Is it ready yet? Does your Google Chrome work with it yet? What about your Steam games? Ooh. So, yeah, it's got a while to go. I mean, it is cool. It takes away all of the kludge that's been in Xorg for years. But it ain't there yet.
So you think it's a mistake for them to throw it in this early then?
Not at all, because, they've got until however long it is, 6 months or so now, to get it all sorted out and make sure that everything that's X-dependent or slightly X-dependent goes on to X-Wayland. I'm sure they'll figure that out easy enough.
That was always the problem with Mir, wasn't it? Getting Xmir working so that you got the applications that just won't work with Mir that would actually work on it as a result of Xmir. So I suppose that's probably where they're going to pour a lot of development into.
Yeah, I got 6 months or so to do it, as long as all the apps are working out of the box, and then when they say like the NVIDIA driver is installed, that if it's able to use the new Wayland NVIDIA EGL stuff that it can, if not, it falls back to X. As long as the fallbacks actually work, I don't really see it being a problem. It's when they don't that there is a big problem.
Yeah, that's where KDE is at the moment, unfortunately, because they don't sort of agree with the way that NVIDIA's done the EGL streams and stuff. And I think Red Hat paid for GNOME to sort of do them, essentially. I don't know where they tie in, to be quite honest. Graphics, blah, whatever. But all I know is that my graphics card is going to become null and void, essentially, once it does become default. So,
well, what they're doing is basically, if it's not supported, then you don't get Wayland. Because if you've got like the proprietary NVIDIA drivers now, because all the Wayland stuff basically relies on KMS with kernel mode setting.
yeah.
If none of that's supported and you're using the drivers, which I'm incapable of saying correctly,
Nouveau.
thank you.
I'm happy to help.
If you're using those guys and it can initialize it properly anyway, most of them are just falling back to X. I say gracefully. It wasn't always the case. I mean, GNOME's getting better at it. Like, as long as all of those fallbacks are in place properly, then yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, things like X Wayland, there is going to be a performance overhead to that, and you are going to notice it. So if you do then put on your NVIDIA drivers, it might be slightly better. If you're on KDE Plasma, you're going back to X anyway. So I think for most people worrying about the drivers, it's not really an issue.
So essentially, I'm going to have to dual boot, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you're just going to be stuck on X anyway, so...
I have a special login just to play Flight Gear. And then I could just use Nouveau for the other one.
All right, well, let's sort of keep it on the topic vaguely. And I'm pleased to say that almost every other podcast that I've heard talk about Unit E, this YUNIT thing, the fork of Unity 8, almost everyone else has called it Unit and not Unity because it's a stupid fucking name.
That was the funniest thing last week. Unit.
The problem is having reread it, I can't decide whether it's Unite, Unit, or Unity. They just absolutely... It's a classic Linux name that it's impossible to even read, and we have to discuss that.
I've gone for Yunit.
I thought it was YUnit, but anyway.
No, I mean, if it's Yunit, then it would be more like Who Yunit.
Well, whatever. Anyway, it seems that is a bit of a chaotic project anyway, with no future, as far as I can see. They've decided to initially base their community around Reddit. Great move, guys. Yeah, that's really going to work. And there's just been, well, just chaos, really. Community chaos. No one seems to know what's going on, and there seems to be just poor leadership and not any real direction. A lot of will, a lot of enthusiasm for we're going to keep Unity 8 going, but at the same time, they don't really have a viable plan to do that by the looks of things.
Yeah, so to sort of flesh out the point that Joe's making, they were apparently having a decision on what their logo should be, and clearly passed it out to the community for people to submit logos and then vote on them. And the response, as you said, on Reddit is from, Jay Salatas. I can't find a longer name than that, so we'll just go with this as
I'm not helping you out, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So he's made a post following this logo decision that says, seems the community is too stupid and irresponsible to decide even for the simplest things like a stupid logo, as there are many votes coming in for random usernames like la 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 la. So the logo will just be an empty circle to remind you all how stupid and irresponsible the community is. Now, that is clearly a very angry man.
That's great community management, isn't it?
He just needed a sandwich. He would have been fine.
Exactly. And anyone who is the sole leader of a group and comes out with those sorts of things, I think if they are able to see that they're not a suitable leader and they're able to say, look, we need a group or a community or some nominated members to be a panel, then they've at least recognized the issue. And they have put up a post with a leadership plan of having a council of 7 members, 3 from the development team, 3 from the community, and a swing seat, and how they're going to do votes differently, because apparently, the manipulation of the voting system they've had on maybe it's not just the logo but other things has sort of come down as not being fit for purpose. So they've sort of put together a few ideas how they're going to change that, but it does show that these fledgling communities or teams are very difficult to start sometimes, and if you get the wrong people at the top, you have to tread carefully, don't you?
Well, yeah, and speaking of which, look at UBports. So UBports started as basically just porting Ubuntu Touch to other devices like the OnePlus One, for example, and the Nexus 5, I think. Whereas now they have decided, or should I say he has decided, Marius Gripsgard, I think, he has decided that they're going to carry on and basically fork it effectively. And meanwhile, the rest of the team were like, hang on, you don't seem to be listening to us, and you're making all these decisions for us, and we want to have a say in that. And so they wrote an open letter to him, which I thought was a bad idea, but whatever. And now it seems to be sorted out, but at least one community member has left. It doesn't really matter to me. The whole thing is just, again, just mismanagement. It's just people trying to take on too much, I think. It's just further fallout. The thing is, criticize Canonical all you want. At least they had full-time devs working on this stuff. And you think that they had full-time devs working on it for all that time and still couldn't get it to a stage where it was ready. Are a few community projects going to be able to do that? And maybe I'm just in a negative mood at the moment, but I just can't see it happening. It just seems like they've just taken on too much.
I couldn't understand the problem with this open letter. They seem to say there's a group of us who are, writing code and trying to get UBports working, and whether or not they agree with his idea, let's put that to one side. It was more the way that he did it, the way there was no clear definition or milestones, what was going to happen, and they clearly had some pent-up issues as to the way that he was doing releases and what have you. But then they sort of 3 days later come out and say, oh, we shouldn't have written this letter, and it was rude, and we apologize for the way, and there was all these complaints and what have you. But I don't really see. I thought the letter was quite well written and quite rounded, and if you're going to put your grievances to someone, why wouldn't you do it this way?
Well, they claimed that they tried to do it privately and that hadn't worked, and they had to resort to going public with it. But it just undermines any confidence that anyone had in the project, as far as I'm concerned. And now it just looks really bad. It looks like just they haven't got their shit together enough to stop things like this going public. It just, to me, it just does not look good.
But it seems that they've come to a resolution.
Well, some of them have, and some of them haven't, is the bottom line. Publicly, they have. But as I said, at least one person, the other Marius, has left. And officially, I spoke to him privately about it, and the only quote he would give me is, I haven't really got time anymore. I'm going to concentrate on other things. But look, read between the lines. There is, upset within that small team, it seems, and not all of them were happy with the resolution that has happened here. But, I mean, it's all irrelevant anyway, because it's a dead platform, surely. I mean, can anyone really look at Unity 8 or Ubuntu Touch and tell me that that is not a dead platform, and that within a year or two, it's good, people will have basically stopped development on it?
Yeah, I agree. Treading water is the most I expect to see from it.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you might get some security updates for existing devices. But, I mean, if Canonical, with all of Shuttleworth's millions, couldn't make it work, how are a small team going to? It's just not going to happen.
I'm reading other lines here, and there's like a common pattern between this. I mean, on the one hand, with one project, we've got a failure of leadership, and with this one, we have objection to leadership, because the specific things that are being called out in this is being a single point of failure. And I'm noticing this pattern, and it's a little bit deviant from the point here, but there is this strong pattern now in projects that everything must be an open democracy managed and owned by everyone. And it's like people are basically trying to get rid of people like me, the spearhead of the operation. And I don't think that works for all projects. I don't think being the spearhead of a project always works. Sometimes they need to be. But I think chasing an open democracy for every single project, I mean, you sap the passion and viability of a project by doing that. So maybe that's what they realized after doing the open letter.
Maybe, but I mean, you have some stuff like Debian that works really well that way, and then you have Solus, which has got a benevolent dictator for life, like you. So,
well, I mean, you get on other projects as well. You get Ubuntu, PHP. They're around. But this seemed like an outright rejection of leadership. I mean, there are some points there that make it invalid, but then there are other ones, which is, what happens if you get hit by a bus? I mean, I've seen me ask that before. It's like, well, what can I do if I'm dead?
Yeah, you won't care at that point, so whatever.
It's not even about not caring, but to strip the ability from someone because they want to lead, because who will lead if they die is, it's kind of like saying about like prime ministers and that. You have contingency plans. Just because I'm really going to probably go to prison for even saying this, but say like if a prime minister of a country was to be shot, right? Somebody else steps up and does it. Just because there is the possibility of him getting shot, should there then be no prime minister?
Yeah.
Obviously there is a democracy underneath that as well. Kind of a bad example. But, you do have effectively a triangle of leadership, to use a really cheesy, corny term. And that seems to be getting rejected outright.
Conjoined triangles of success. That sounds like
But if you're saying that, when I die, who cares? You don't care, clearly.
Oh, no, that's not what I said.
Okay, you didn't say that.
I said, what can I do?
What can you do? But you would you want Solus to carry on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you must have ways for people to, take your work or take the, the keys to the servers and the SSH information and all that kind of stuff.
They would be shared in the event of my kicking said bucket, but not before.
But do you think there are projects that are too big to have a single person at the top of them? I mean, Debian's a good example where you don't have that, and it seems to be running very nicely. Whereas some of the smaller projects, like the ones we've been covering, and I'm going to put Solus in that group as well, if you don't mind, it works having a single vision.
For an extent. That's kind of like your bootstrap of the community. You're the initial one that comes in there with the big loud mouth and gets things done, and you go rush around and do things, but it does get to a point where it starts to outgrow your own capabilities. But that's when it gets to a point. I mean, Solus is headed on that path, don't get me wrong. At some point, it's going to have to say, it's like, okay, we need some kind of structure here, right? We need some kind of board. But until then, not really. It's still valid to have that single leader. That's kind of my view on it anyway. And I'd say UBports is probably smaller.
Well, sort of dragging this back to the news doc, and I'm afraid reshuffling a little bit there, Joe, I think this ties in nicely with the Libreboot point of view about, we had a news story right at the beginning of Late Night Linux that Libreboot had cut ties from GNU in order to, because GNU had fired someone, there was something about transgender in there, and we'll just steer clear of that because we've covered that. And then there was a sort of all sort of issues last time about the fact that as a team they wanted to not have this one person solely responsible, and so she had apologized and they'd written all these sorts of things, and now it turns out that they're looking at rejoining the GNU Foundation. And so this is just another example of, teams and collaborators and leaders, and what should our community look like, and how do we have a hierarchy, and who's in charge, and all those sorts of questions.
Maybe there needs to be some kind of standard model for projects. I know it's a case of throwing more standards after more standards, but there probably is a standardized approach that does work, and one that is scalable. Because, we do know that the single point of failure one, while beneficial in the early days of a project, it has a stretching and a breaking point. It can only go so far. If the project is not bootstrapped by that point, it's probably going to fail. Being part of a bigger project, you get to share resources over people. You've got bug trackers and mailing lists and things. Maybe there just needs to be a standard approach to new projects.
You need a flow chart, a decision chart, don't you?
Kind of do.
Are
yeah.
you smaller than this? Are you bigger than that? Are you trying to change the world? Are you maintaining this only? And try and work out what sort of, because like you're saying, there's not just two. There's not benevolent dictator and democratic. There's sort of slightly in between ones, and how big is that democracy, and how are you voting the people in and out, and all those sorts of things. Is it hereditary? Do it that way. And if you had those as all the options, then you might be able to just have a simple, or not so simple, tree system.
Well, can I put forward a suggestion here? So Libreboot have applied to rejoin GNU, and I also saw that they are looking to transfer the control of their domain name as well. They wanted to send it to the FSF, but then someone vetoed that, and then they were looking at conservancy. It just seems that, okay, well, Libreboot are very copyleft centric, so that kind of makes sense for them to align themselves with the FSF. But on one hand, you've got GNU and FSF, they're real hardcore copyleft people, and then you've got the Linux Foundation, which are just pure corporate interests, let's say. Is there room for a third organization that is more community driven, is more open to more permissive licenses, that could kind of shepherd these smaller projects and give them guidance and stuff, and kind of centralize things to some extent, centralize support, I suppose.
So like the Apache incubator, but modern and relevant.
Yeah.
I managed to insult twice there while paying a compliment.
But yeah, does something exist that could be brought up to date, or do we need something new, or am I barking up the wrong tree here?
I think we had a similar sort of discussion to this on Luddites when we were doing that, and we sort of came around to the conclusion that Mozilla would be that group as free software advocates, but with sort of a pragmatic approach.
Well, they've certainly got the money, haven't they? Would it be, down the back of the sofa for them to scrape together a few pennies to set something up, and with a few support staff or something, just people who know what they're doing and can help smaller projects thrive and develop, and not have all these community management issues and big blow ups in public.
And they might do something relevant with it as opposed to a nonsense phone OS that goes nowhere. Maybe. I bought 2. I'm still bitter.
Which ones did you buy?
The stupid orange one, which was useless, and then the Geeks phone white one that was also useless.
No, give it more of a description. I preferred stupid orange phone.
Actually, you know what? I tried to erase most of it out of my mind. I was so bitter and disgusted. Fair enough, it wasn't exactly pricey or anything, but it was just junk.
ZTE Open, I think.
Yes, that's it. Yes, it's all flooding back now.
We had the ZTE Open C, and that was shit, so God knows how bad the first one was.
Bad. But
look on the bright side, Phelim, you can look back in 20 years and still remember buying it.
I'll probably still have it. I'm going to nail it to the wall so I never do that again.
But I mean, you've touched on the failure of... I can't remember. Well, Firefox OS there, and there's recently been Ubuntu Touch failing. What we need is a team or a group that can sort of harmonize all of these different Linux-based phone operating systems into one working perfect project, don't we?
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Halium. How do you pronounce this?
I'd say it's Halium, but
it's only got one L though, so who knows? It's one of those Linuxy words where you never have to. Yeah. Oh God, let's
it's
not.
It's irrelevant.
Shut up. So there seems to be a good plan here, and they talk about the classic XKCD comic where they said there's 14 competing standards. What do we need? Another standard, and then we have 15 standards. And they seem to have this dream that they will create a standard that will be the standard. And looking down the list of people who are involved in this, one of them jumps out, Marius Gripsgaard, the UBports fella. And given the chaotic state of that, which, okay, that's maybe a little bit unfair, but I don't know. Do we have much faith in this? The idea that the reality is that because of Android and the drivers and everything, basically all of these mobile OSs that are based on Linux have some stuff in common, and there's a lot of duplication of effort. And this is looking to minimize that, because you've got Plasma Mobile, Sailfish, Ubuntu, whatever happens to that, Asteroid OS, which is the smartwatch one, and Loon OS, which I had never heard of, don't even know what that is. But do we think that there's any point in this, or is it just time to surrender? Even Microsoft are getting to the point where they're going to kill officially, I think, Windows Phone. Like, do we just surrender? You've got iOS, you've got Android, and that's it.
Yes, God, please stop. Just stop with the phones. I mean, like, in current technological terms, you may as well be developing for a Palm Pilot, because this market is completely saturated, and by the time you come to market with anything that's remotely near fruition, one, you have no apps for anyone. And that's why these things keep failing, because guess what? They have no apps. Well, apart from Ubuntu Touch, but we don't talk about that. It's just not a relevant market anymore because it's already completely saturated. You have Android. You got like those two guys in Washington who have Windows Phone, and they use NFC on it, and they absolutely love it. But the rest of the world is using iOS or Android. Why would you try and penetrate an impenetrable market that is backed by the biggest technology company in the world and the biggest advertising company in the world? How the hell can you go up against them? You know, I mean, I've wanted to see things, Linux-based effort, actually move somewhere, but it's too little too late. You should be focusing on being ready for the next technology instead of trying to retroactively apply current Linux to phones that already exist. It doesn't make any sense. That's not how you go for a market. You know, you're there to launch when something comes out. Like, should have been ready for smartwatches if you wanted to do anything. But phones that have already been out for years and we're starting to move on to different form factors, just give up, man. I mean, best of luck on everything.
I'd like to say no, don't, but I think everybody wants to be next Samsung or Apple, and I don't think everybody needs to be like that. I don't think it's like all the sort of boutique mobile manufacturers out there. I think there's definitely a place for that type of thing where you can say, I'm going to make laptops that appeal to people who like Linux. And yeah, System 76, Entroware, Tuxedo, whatever. You've got yourself, they're not Dells and they're not Apple. They still make a profit and they still do well. I think that should be possible for people to do that with phones as well, because there can't be just the two, because both of them are as closed as the other. Google likes to pretend it's open, but every single step they take, they're getting more and more closed to the point where their kernel is not going to even be enough that's a GPL piece of code in there.
Well, hang on, can I just destroy your analogy though? Because the thing is that you can buy a machine from Dell or Toshiba or whatever, one of the massive laptop manufacturers, and you can install Linux on it, or you can install Windows on it, or you can make your own OS for it, whatever, because it's x86 and it's much more open and much easier. As open's the wrong word, but it's easier to have generic operating systems on there.
Accessible, maybe?
Yeah, I suppose accessible, but that's you got your other connotations. But anyway, whereas with phones, it's each individual phone has its each individual ROM.
Yeah, but that's stupid though. That's the problem. They need to just stop having their own egos where they think, oh, you know what, we're going to do it so much better than all the rest. If they had something like Halium that they could stick to, maybe they could standardize on a set of components. We might get a de facto non-Android, non-Apple phone, and that you could use as a, open base phone 2018 or something like that. And then they can work on that. And then, in 2 years they can go, oh no, we'll upgrade it to this. If I'm selling components to it, who do I care who buys it? And, they go on, oh, but you'll have to license the driver for the mobile networks. Well, just do it once. Don't change it. Just lock it off like it's a horrible, nasty piece of software that it will be anyway. And then don't let it, have full access to the memory on the phone, things like that. Firewall it off. Like I don't allow my internet provider have access into my network inside my house. Do the same with that. And then do it once. And you know what? That's it. Just leave it like that.
But we've already tried this once. It was called Tizen.
Yeah, okay, try it better.
And that was Linux Foundation. All right, yeah, all right, try it better. But I mean, to go with your one, yes, in terms of the niche markets like you have for System 76 and, like Linux laptop vendors, that does exist. But I think the problem everyone has at the moment, and I think you highlighted there yourself, is trying to recreate the Android success story. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but I don't think they have to, though. That's the problem.
Well, no, because then you're not differentiating. You're trying to recreate what somebody has already done, and they've already dominated the market, and you're trying to recreate that using now open technologies when the average consumer isn't going to go out and get it because they already have it on the devices they're getting. You cannot use the same recreation of a story if your market is not the same, because you're not going to attain the same success. So from that point of view, these efforts are absolutely pointless. However, if you're looking to create a new standard platform and you're not trying to recreate the success, then by all means go for it. But I have not seen any evidence from that. But I mean, yeah, I'm mostly positive about it.
Yeah, you sound it.
All right, well, speaking of the next wave of technology that we should be chasing with Linux, let's talk about IoT and EdgeX Foundry, which is the open interop platform for the IoT Edge. Now, I read through this vendor-neutral open source project hosted by the Linux Foundation. Okay, building a common open framework for industrial IoT edge computing. And then I just got so lost in corporate bullshit speak that I lost interest, really. Sounds like a good idea, but I suppose it's aimed at industry, so it has to have a lot of industry bullshit.
Yeah, I can't really take it seriously, though, because I didn't see a hacker with a balaclava on at any point, so I'm not worried about them.
No padlocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first sentence you covered there, Joe, does basically say it all. It's Linux Foundation, and they're trying to build a common open framework for IoT stuff. And then the rest of it is just pure gobbledygook of ecosystems, interoperable components, uncertainty, accelerate time to market, fine, what have you. But looking at the people they have on their list of standards, Zigbee, Z-Wave, N-Ocean, KNX, things that are used for current home activity jobbies, where you turn the lights on, or you want your camera out the front to communicate with yourself, and all these sorts of things. These are names that I see and recognize from various vendors and developers, and you can't use a Z-Wave device with a Zigbee setup. So you have to have either two systems in parallel, or just go all in one and hope that the one you've chosen has all the devices that you want and has the app on the phone in the way that you want and all these sorts of things. So having something that would sort of put a facade over the top of all these lower standards would mean that you get all this interoperability, which is what is missing from IoT, because I should be able to go out and buy my super smart toaster and my super smart CCTV camera and my doorbell and whatever else it is, and not give a shit as to who's made it or what back end it's got. It should just work and connect to my server, and the server should go, okay, I see you've got this system, it's working on Bluetooth. I see you've got that system, it's working on Wi-Fi. I can deal with this all, it's fine. So if that's what the outcome of this is, then I think it's a good thing.
Partially agree with you, but I still don't know why your toaster needs to talk to anything. I think there's a lot of people trying to sell crap for no other better reason than people keep using the fully functioning devices they've got, and they're like, how do we make these obsolete as quick as possible? It's like TVs with those little boards on them that, play media and connect to stuff. It's a great surefire way to have a terribly unpatched Samba server sitting on your network as your TV's there blithely spamming the crap out your mail server, because it's just totally out of date at this point. I don't know. I think they're just trying to make products that people have to buy and have to change, I think.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that. So I'm in the market, if anyone has a free one, I'm in the market for a new washer dryer, okay? You go out and you look at the top end, most expensive ones that you think have all the clever buttons and all the things you might want, and they're all smart washer dryers. And I think, what the bejesus do I need that for? Why on earth do I need to know the state of my washing machine whilst I'm not in the house? It's either washing or drying or not on.
Or on fire.
Yeah, and that's not going to be reported, is it? So I'm entirely with you. I mean, from my point of view, I read these and I think of IoT and I think mostly of home automation because that seems cool and funky. But when it comes to unnecessary white goods having it, no thank you, or security items like my lock and my CCTV and what have you, no thank you. So I know that other people want them, but from my point of view, it's lights and heating and nice sort of cool techie things to make your house a bit smarter.
I'm kind of surprised by this whole thing as well, to be quite honest with you, because it's not like open standards for IoT don't already exist. And here comes this Foundry, and it's apparently very cool. It's, it's got the likes of Dell and Canonical involved, and that's great. But the Open Connectivity Foundation already exists. Not only that, they are the main sponsors for IoTivity, which is, open standards for IoT, which used to be the Open Interconnect Consortium, which you remember had quite a bit of news a little while back. And I mean, that's got members like LG, Microsoft, Samsung, Canon, Cable Labs, Cisco, quite a few big guys in there. So I'm wondering if something already exists, why are they going creating another one? And along with IoTivity, that's also linked into the Linux Foundation as well as an incubated project.
Yeah, it's funny because none of those names are on these lists. They've got IoTech and CloudPugs and Cloud of Things and Ubuntu, like you mentioned, and Linaro and VMware, Zigbox, but not Microsoft or Intel or any of those other big players. So maybe we've got two groups starting up subgroups of groups of... Oh dear.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing already, isn't it? I mean, if they're building a platform around the OCF stuff, then great. Because that would interest me more, because then you would know that you still had the standards going on between the two of them. That's my hope anyway, because it's too many standards.
Well, don't worry. You know how if you can't be bothered to configure your server properly, you just stick Cloudflare in front of it and they will fix it for you?
Yeah.
Well, Cloudflare have got yet another solution for IoT. They're going to stick their proprietariness in between your devices and the internet, and they're going to magically solve all your problems.
Yeah, and notice that their logo that they use is a toaster.
Says it all, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
But I mean, you're not going to get standards, are you, at the end of the day? Or you're not going to get everyone adhering to those standards. Jesse's dream is just not going to come true, even if you get some companies adhering to it.
I mean, we have plenty of standards that are used in the modern world, but that's kind of the problem. We have plenty of standards. Looking at you, ISO.
But like, if Cloudflare comes and, is successful with this, surely it's better than having all these insecure, unupdatable devices out there, billions of them.
Yeah, so just to sort of go over my understanding of this so that we're, bring the listeners as to where this is, they put their firewall between your device in your home and the nasty big outside world, so your device communicates through their firewall, and all they do is they either open or close the ports for various different services from that device, so that you can, if they know that there's a sort of a vulnerability that will output things on one particular port, they can close that whilst that vulnerability gets fixed. And if it never gets fixed, then that vulnerability never sees the outside world and therefore never sends DDoSes and things. That's roughly what they're sort of selling here, isn't it?
Pretty much, but it seems like a bit of a pipe dream to me that they're going to be able to manage it all. Surely proper security updates are a far better solution.
Well, you kind of want all of them, don't you? You mean, you want to drive safely, but at the same time, you'd kind of like to have airbags too.
I suppose, belt and braces, yeah.
Which is ironic because their example was how there's a vulnerability in Jeep when Chrysler had to recall 1.4 million vehicles from a vulnerability.
Yeah, whereas if this was sitting in front of them, then they wouldn't have had to do that.
Apparently.
I suppose I don't understand how the one with Jeep and the other examples there was sort of reeling off with the fact that most end users don't say yes to security updates. I mean, they made the fair point that often when I get a thing that says my phone's ready to update, I'll put it off a bit because I'm busy using my phone. I want to do it when I'm at home and like not, in the middle of my day sort of thing. And so people will sometimes say, oh, not now, not now. And if you get too used to that and just say, never remind me, I don't want to hear about it, you'll end up with all these vulnerabilities. But I don't understand why devices like a Jeep, if it's always connected, it's got some sort of 3G, 4G for updating the maps and what have you. Why they can't just push them and force them to update in the background so that when they next, turn their Jeep on, it is updated? Why are they making the consumer say yes or no? Just have a thing, the rollback mechanism like they have in Ubuntu snaps, where you can update the snap and then when you next turn on it, it goes to the next version, and if it fails safe. Or in this case, might fail to an unpatched version which needs a patch. But either way, you would think there would be a way of doing it in the background without people having to say yes, and therefore not have this problem.
Yeah, it probably takes money, and they don't want to spend too much money on it either. Just stick a firewall in front of it. Problem solved.
All right, then. Well, that'll do it for the news, I suppose. So this episode is sponsored by Entroware. And Entroware are a dedicated Linux computer manufacturer from the UK. And they ship various computers, laptops, a couple of desktops, even a server or two, running Ubuntu or Ubuntu Mate, or crucially, no operating system, if you want to install your own. And they've got a great range of laptops, from really cheap ones to real powerhouses. And they refresh them regularly with the latest Intel processors and NVIDIA chips and that sort of thing. And they're ideal for pretty much anyone, from someone who just wants to send a few emails and do a bit of browsing, all the way up to graphic designers and video editors and machine learning, that kind of stuff.
Yes, you said they had a couple of desktops and things. They've got 3 desktop options, 5 laptops, and a server you can go for. But one of the nice things is that once you pick the sort of size and general overall looks and feel of the one that you want, the sort of price range or what have you, you can then go in and tinker with them and select the processors, the amount of RAM you want, whether you want a second hard drive, things like this. So there's a nice amount of customization that you can do and pick all important things like UK keyboard layouts or US, and what you want I suppose we have to call it a super key, don't we? So whether you want the Ubuntu logo, a Mate logo, Entroware logo, or the dirty Windows logo. So you get to have a whole bunch of options as well once you've picked the laptop or desktop or server you want.
Yeah, and they ship to the UK, Republic of Ireland, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. And so if you're interested in buying a computer that runs Linux out of the box from a company who actually cares about Linux, then check out Entroware, entroware.com. And if you do buy one of the machines, when you get to checkout, do mention Late Night Linux, and then they'll know that we sent you. So check it out, entroware.com, and thanks to them for sponsoring us. And so a bit of admin then. Thanks to everyone for supporting us with PayPal and Patreon. As I said last time, we're not going to be naming names, but if you do want to shout out specifically, then let us know. And you can find out all the ways you can support us, latenightlinux.com/support. And you can get in contact, latenightlinux.com/contact. There's email and Twitter and Google Plus and even Facebook. And something that came up this week was Reddit. Should we have a subreddit? I'm leaning towards no, fuck you. But if there's enough interest, then I suppose we could do it. I mean, what do you lot think?
Reddit is the devil.
What's the massive hatred against Reddit? It's got really good useful stuff in it. You can vote up, vote down.
Yeah, but I'm supposed to hate it by default. It's Reddit.
It's, I don't know, just the whole kind of vibe on there just seems to be a bit, I don't know, negative. And
you can have good communications there, but give it 6 months and you're going to be dealing with shit on a daily basis. The people come and say, you suck. Yeah, thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
Please fuck off.
Well, it's supposed to have that inbuilt mechanism, isn't it, where you can downvote, stuff like that. So
you can, and there is moderation tools available. So, I mean, if it's your own Reddit, it's distinctly easier to do it. And I think it's probably got a bad rap because it can suck people in very, very easily. It's a conversation on the internet. You're going to get stuck into it, but it's not bad as such, really.
I mean, it sounds like a no.
Well, it's a kind of no for now.
We
but
have a comment section.
Oh yeah, you just can't resist a comment section. It was funny when you found out that we had one, and you just couldn't stay away from
type on this.
So if people are interested, then we can do it. So get in contact with us one of the other ways. The Telegram group's always a good way, latenightlinux.com/Telegram. And if you hassle us enough, then maybe one of us will create that community It was subreddit, sorry. But until then, I don't know, not that interested.
I mean, the main concern is mostly fragmentation of where you can be seen and heard. Because at the moment it's Telegram and then the comments, and then it's Telegram and comments on Twitter, and then it's Telegram and comments on Twitter and Reddit, and then it's lions and tigers and bears. You get the drift.
Mastodon.
I was going to say Mastodon, and there's always email.
There's LO as well.
Yeah, well, don't talk to me about LO. And what was that bloody one that Paddy always used to get us on? Wanted to get us
Ring
on.
or something, was it?
No, there was the one that's turned into a outright fest.
Facebook.
No.
I thought that was Ello. Hang on a minute. Now I'm forgetting it.
No, it's not Hello, is it? Anyway, let's not promote them because they're a bunch of bastards on there.
Far be it from me to turn the conversation away from the source. Go on.
If you do mention it on the Telegram group, do hashtag Reddit so we can find it through all of the other important conversations that are going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. I just had a bit of a sort of shower thought the other day, and that was about how do you talk to normal people about free and open source software? And I just thought, if you were given a platform, say on a TV show or a big podcast or a radio show or something, where you could go on and talk about what's good about free and open source software and Linux and that kind of thing, how would you go about doing that? Where do you start? Where do you go with it? Do you talk about the security benefits? Do you talk about more freedoms and all that kind of stuff? Where would you start? Do you go full-blown RMS with it, or do you try and be a bit more moderate with your views? And I don't know, it just seemed like something that I'd want to get your opinions on. How would you go about it?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think it's useful if Phelim started.
Oh, I see. Right, thanks. Let me get hit by the bus first.
Well, okay, the first question is, should you be doing advocacy? I mean, I always call myself a FOSS advocate, but should you just let them get on with it in their Windows and Mac and iPhone world?
I think it depends on who you're talking to, because I think the day of IT people not knowing what it is pretty much gone. I think you're almost struggling to find someone who doesn't know what it is, at least from what I've seen anyway. It doesn't mean that they use it, but they certainly know what it is. I guess it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to come across as Stallman. I think you do have to somewhat stick to a principle. Well, if it's important to you anyway. I'm not keen on BSD licenses. I just think that's not very fair to people contributing to a project. So I would always sort of err on the side of GPL, mainly by the fact of trying to educate people on the fact that you can contribute to something, work together on a problem, and actually get a solution to it. Much like the way that you don't have a limited vocabulary on maths because, somebody owns the multiplication symbol or something daft like that. I mean, that's how I'd go if I was talking to somebody who was really not into IT as such, and say, just because there's the most dominant in-your-face method right now is Microsoft and Apple, it doesn't actually mean it's the only way, because the world that you don't see, like the Facebooks, the Internet of Things, all of those delightful sort of things that are hidden away, they're all running open software. So, it is a real thing. Because I remember a long, long time ago, it was like late 90s, I was doing a website, and they said, what do you mean it's free? You can't have it's obviously not very good. And you're like, well, no, it doesn't work like that. And it's a frustrating thing to have to do,
Well, hang on a second. If the source code is all open and anyone can look at it, that means it's not secure at all, right?
Yes, absolutely. Please continue at that.
No, but you seriously get people saying that to you. How do you say to them, no, if it's written properly? And, it becomes a very frustrating sell to people.
I think you have to say, I've seen the builder build my house. I know where all the bricks went. It doesn't mean you push through the walls, though, does it?
Yeah. That's a good analogy. I'll remember that one.
But I don't think that you're going to be... I would go with the same sort of vibe, by the way, Phelim. And I think you're going to be stuck in the sort of ethereal benefits versus the real world benefits. Because I think one of the major benefits is that, let's say Ubuntu stops supporting the phone that you've bought, and there is nothing to stop you from carrying on developing for that phone. Now, maybe the phone is too big a chunk to have bitten off, and you would need a whole team and you need a lot of money in order to get it to where you want it to be. But let's say, I have a absolute favorite photo downloading software, and the guy that writes it is open source. And if he suddenly retired and decided not to carry on writing that, I could take that code and I could either learn how to add to it and write and improve it, or I could, pay someone to say, oh, can you add this feature or what have you? But the problem is that a lot of people, if we're talking to the normals, as you say, we're assuming they're not computer savvy, computer literate, and don't want to do the coding themselves. They want it just delivered on a plate. And the idea that you would be able to take the code and change it isn't available to them. I mean, even myself, I'm no coder, so I can't start to think, oh, I'll just tinker with this bit of software and edit this program to how I want it. My bash scripts are about as advanced as I get. So it's a case of getting across the concept that this can be done, and it's useful because it can benefit people further down the line, downstream. But whether that's sort of a little bit too, as I said, ethereal, a little bit too sort of out of reach for people to grasp the actual benefit, or whether they take that sort of idea and that influence and think, actually, that's a useful feature, even if I don't need it. That's the sort of the difficulty of explaining it, is that it always seems the benefits seem a little bit just too far out of reach to be benefits to you right now. Whereas, bit of software that works straight out of the box, closed or not, we're done.
Well, I was going to get to that, this I want it to just work situation. Do you not feel when you try and sell someone on Linux or open source software that you have to kind of almost make excuses for the fact that it's going to be a bit buggy and not necessarily work 100% of the time?
Like the way Windows works 100% all the time, or, Apple hasn't axed yet another project because they decided that a physical representation of a calendar was a genius idea. I don't know. I think all software is buggy. I think people have a slightly rose-tinted view of things when it's their favorite OS. If you're an Apple fanboy, whatever, I'm sure you might stick up for Apple when maybe you should go, yeah, maybe it was a bit rubbish, all right. I like my stuff just to work too. I mean, it's not like I want to sit in front of my machine and, have it needlessly break continually. So, I mean, I'd use that as a thing, my time is worth something too. So I don't want to be sitting there with stuff breaking all the time. It's mainly why I do use open source software.
Ike, you've been very quiet on this.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice.
Is it just something that you don't do then? You just don't talk to normals?
No, I mean, I've no need. For people in my daily life, I look at it as preaching. I'm not into preaching. I don't like having things rammed down my throat, and I really don't like it when others do to me. I've got principles, and I try and keep by my principles. So for me then to go to other people, it's like, you should really use this thing. I just see no situation in my life where that's either appropriate or warranted.
But what about if someone comes to you with a knackered, a broken laptop, and it's just Windows is just being shit?
But that's the thing. It just wouldn't happen. There is no circumstance in my life for that to happen, I mean, for example, my friend John, best friend John, right? He knows about Linux and he uses Solus, don't get me wrong. And his kid both the kids actually have Solus on their laptops, funnily enough. But they're more tech orientated for the most part. So for me in my life, there is that would be the extent of the conversations I would have in real life about Solus or Linux or open source or free software, any of that. There's just no situation. But to go with your example, if someone came up to me and they had a broken computer, would I put Linux on it? Not without asking their permission, no.
Oh, of course, I'd never just force it upon someone. I would explain to them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd try and fix it what's there. But, if it was totally bricked and say, I didn't have a Windows recovery disk, I would say to him, it's like, I can put this on there for you. And then I would start explaining to him, it's like, it's free, you don't have to pay for anything. And then explaining why it's slightly different and then why some things aren't going to work on there, because you have to tell him, right? You're not going to be running PaintShop Pro on this anytime soon.
Well, that's the heart of what I was getting to with this. When you come to that situation, how do you sell them on it? Do you say to them, look, I could reinstall Windows and it's going to be really long, or we could just be really easy and I could put X Linux distribution, which we don't need to argue about.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to sell them on it, I think, is updates or control over the updates. Like, if I had to sell it to anyone, it's like, when you're sat there 5 minutes before a meeting and the Poxy laptop goes to fucking update itself again and reboots you 5 minutes before the meeting, because I've had this happen to me. It's like, well, you won't have any of that on Linux. Like, you call the shots, whatever system you're on. Whatever you want it to do, it will do, not when you tell it to. And it boot up quicker and it run faster. So that's the usual stuff you give them, but I think it'd be very, very hard for someone who's not technical, someone who's a computer user, but not really such a geek as such. I don't think you'd be able to sell them on philosophy. I just don't think you'd be able to do it. Not at first.
But it's funny that what you've said there, you've basically paraphrased RMS with his, if you don't control the program controls you. I mean, that's basically what you just said.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I mean, but you have to put it in a way that the philosophy isn't front and center, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a more practical example, like the updates and rebooting thing.
Yeah, pragmatic application of the philosophy. Yeah, I suppose it's doable. But I just don't like preaching.
Yeah, that's why I always use the word advocate rather than evangelist, because I advocate it if you want to ask me about it, but I'm not going to start preaching to you. I'm not going to start evangelizing the good word about free software and Linux.
Maybe I just don't have enough real people in my life.
Well, I don't know, being stuck in that flat most of the time, the odd trip to the shop to buy bloody Red Bull.
I resemble that remark. I bought Froobs.
And Red Bull.
No, Monster probably instead.
I think you have to pick your battles too, and I think you have to understand who you're talking to. I think that's the main important thing, where you're not going to sell the wrong message to the wrong person. Find out what's important about what they like, and then maybe it doesn't work for them. If iTunes is important to them, yeah, don't even bother. But if getting access to their photos in 10 years' time is, maybe you have a case.
So it's more the framing of.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The only problem is I don't know how you scale that. I haven't a clue. Unless maybe Stallman is a troll and he's setting the bar purposely so high and so extreme that he's just waiting for the new guy to swoop right in and suck up all the other people. Maybe not.
I look forward to seeing the comment section and to figure out how everyone else does it.
Yeah. Yeah, do leave a comment, because it's something I think about a lot, trying to spread the word without coming across as a nutter, basically. So, do tell us how you do it. But I suppose time gets away from us, so we better wrap it up. We'll be back in a couple of weeks as normal with episode 11. Oh, yeah, we didn't make a big song and dance about getting to double figures. Vindicated in my choice of 01 for episode 1. Yes. Let's try and get to 100 and give me a problem with numbering, please. Anyway, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. I've been Joe.
I've been Jesse. Doodaloo.
I've been Phelan.
I'm still Likey.
See you later.
Auf Wiederhorn.
No, see you later is the last word.
No, it isn't.